is going to be joining us soon. Any second now.
What time is it there?
Mom, sorry, Graham. It's
in Australia right now. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow afternoon.
There she is.
Oh,
hi, Mum.
no. I'm sorry. Technical issue.
Not at all. First of all, we were just saying how amazing you are that you're able to jump on Instagram Live all by yourself because you're in quarantine in Australia. And you're all on your own, and I mean, how many grandmas can do that?
Gosh, I can't, and I'm a mom.
Beautiful family to help. You're open.
Oh, well, thank you both so much for being here. Hello to everyone who's joined in. So grateful to have you guys. Let's get started right away. So I want to start. I'm going to start every conversation like this, which is, what's your name? Where are you from? And who is a woman that you admire? Who wants to go first?
Well,
Mom?
No, I think we'll give the respect to Granny. Granny can go first.
Oh. Granny, introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. It's saying go live, but I am on, am I?
You're live. You're live.
Okay. My name is Sally Cohen, and I live in Melbourne, Australia. Right down at the bottom in the south, and for those who are not familiar with the map. And what was the other question?
A woman you admire.
Well, of course, I know what you would expect me to say, and I'm going to, and it's the Queen, Queen Elizabeth.
Of course. Why am I not surprised? And this is actually another very, very interesting thing where it's not just a generational thing, but a cultural thing where Zion.
I don't have room for
Zion. Dear Zion.
Hello.
Zion, say hello. Oh, wait, we lost Granny. She'll get back in. But no, I was saying it's so interesting while we wait for Granny to get back in. So Granny idolizes the Queen. And that's, the Commonwealth, right, Mom? Like, when you grow up in the Commonwealth, did you, how was your relationship, I guess, with the monarchy?
Well, I think it's like anything. There are people that like it and there are people that don't. It's like with the president. There's people that like the president. There's people that don't.
But Americans,
I would say when we grew up, a majority of us totally respected the royal family. We were very influenced by the royal family. And yes, I would say the majority.
Yeah.
Respected the royal
I feel
family.
like in America, we don't have that same relationship.
Well, because you don't have a royal family.
Well, exactly.
So how can you have the relationship when you don't have a royal
but people
family?
don't care as much about the royal.
Because they don't have a royal family that they care
There
about.
she is. She's back.
The first lady as much, or
I think it's so cute. So when the Queen came to Australia, when you like that famous Australia trip that you hear about in The Crown. Okay, can Dad get Zion because he's making noises. So anyway, in The Crown, I know, in The Crown, when the Queen came to visit, they did that famous Australia trip. You were there in Australia, right?
Absolutely. And when the Queen or even other royal family, I would go, time of day or night, snap up, wave, all, make sure I was.
And you just wave.
Royal.
That's so cute. Why do you admire her so much?
I think so. Said when she was dedicated her life to a role that really it's not in life. But Queen at a very young age, and she was determined to be what was either 19 or 21, forgotten.
Yeah. They're saying that you're cutting out off a bit the sound, but hopefully that'll get better. People are saying that they're having trouble hearing you.
Oh,
It's cutting out a bit, but basically that the Queen. Yeah, I think that's. But it's they're saying Granny keeps cutting out, but essentially you're saying about how she came into a role and she's really, oh, there you go. She has just been really
dedicated her life.
Yeah.
Dedicated her life to the duty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mom, who's yours?
A woman I admire.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many women, so many. But I was thinking, you know, who more than anyone, I really don't know, because there's so many that I could say, but one that's top of my lists would be Rosa Parks. I think, you know, in that period, to do what she did, not just as a woman of color, but a woman to, you know, she risked her life in front of, to stand up for, you know, what she believed in. So I think that's remarkable.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. But there's so many
incredible
women.
Yeah. So I often speak with everyone here watching. You guys would know I speak a lot about progress and how it's a continuous process, and we advance because those who came before us did all of this work to move us forward. And so we're kind of passing the baton. And I've been thinking about that a lot this Women's History Month, because so many of the things that I'm able to do today that I take for granted are because of things that Mom's generation and your generation, Granny, have done. And so I thought it would be interesting to talk about, you know, how those things have changed. And Granny, I wanted to start with you. You know, what are some of the more notable things in your lifetime that stand out to you, that have really changed, you know, for better or for worse?
I think that there's been a huge change in women's roles. When I was growing up, the thing that we went to school for, we trained and so on, but it was to get married and have children. Now, and you stayed at home to do that. The men there was a terrible name, name they gave them called breadwinner. The man was the breadwinner. Have you heard that?
We still use that, but now there are women who are the breadwinners,
right?
But women have a completely different role. Usually, not always, but usually the woman was expected to be at home looking after the children. There weren't nearly as many opportunities for careers, courses at university, opportunities for women to study or take the path that they really would have liked in history, in life.
But was it that you were not allowed in those classes, or you just it didn't occur to you to even join?
Of course you were allowed, and there were a few who did those classes. And the thing I remember is medicine and law. They were, you know, a female doctor or lawyer was pretty much unheard of. There were some, and I remember in studied that, but not very. Oh,
sorry, he wants to be part of the family conversation.
Sorry, Papa, can you get the dog? Sorry. What did you study in school, Granny?
I became an occupational therapist, a course that I didn't really enjoy. It was quite different in my day, but I always felt that the choice was perhaps to be a secretary or an occupational therapist or a physical therapist.
Sorry. Mom, can you, I'm going to take Zion.
Could we explain that?
No, I'm going to take Zion. My mom, you guys, Granny knows, my mom's in a cast right now. She can't move. So I'm going to take him outside. She just can't move. Mom, tell them about, can you talk about Granny's OT?
Yeah, so Mum, I'm sure, you know, a lot of people don't even know what occupational therapy is.
Okay.
But really it was something, I think, from what you've told me, that you didn't really even want to do.
No.
You didn't really want to
But
study
so when you went to school and they gave you options, you were like, okay, I guess I'll do this and then I'll just get married and have kids. Like, was that your plan? Like, did you ever plan to work in it?
Absolutely. And by the way, getting to 23 and not being married, a girl would feel she was on the shelf.
On the shelf.
Very
23.
23. Yes.
Oh my God. Mom, what were you doing at 23?
I think I better not talk about it.
So see, things changed already in one
Things
generation.
changed, yes. And also in different countries and different cultures, things change too, because 23, you know, in some countries that was getting older.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there were a lot of countries that women were getting married at 16, 17, 18.
That's illegal now.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, in those, I suppose it wasn't illegal then. But what was I doing at 23? I had just finished uni and I was in Europe and having the time of my life.
Yeah.
Working.
Yeah. Can you tell everyone the story of Ya and the opera?
Yes, I will. My father was quite a strong man, commanding man. In those days, my mother, who became a very strong woman later on, but in those days she wasn't subservient, but she knew her place and she did what her husband wanted. So they used to go to the opera, but she was pregnant, very pregnant with me. And my father said, well, I'm going to the opera and I'll take a friend with me. But you, of course, can't come. My mother was there with a nurse because I was due any day and I was going to be born in the house. And as soon as my father had gone off, my mother said to the nurse, come on, we're going to the opera too. I have 2 tickets and we're going to sit in a different part of the theatre.
I love that.
The opera, got home in time before he did. And
So
it was
he didn't know, he really didn't know?
really didn't know.
I love that. She just went, she's like, I want to go. I'm going to go.
Today you couldn't do that because you'd want to take a selfie or a photo with your friend and you'd put it on social media so your husband would see it.
Yeah. Yeah, or you'd be tracking.
Or someone would.
I did that when I tried to lie about where I was when we went skiing, and Derek found me on Find My Friends.
Right, right.
Okay, so Mom, I want to talk a little bit. Oh, Granny, you were gonna say something?
No. Oh. Well,
one thing that I never thought of growing up was how much of an anomaly you are in your industry. I only really just started to realize that as I got older, but you are Australian, Jewish, a woman working in the Latin music industry. So how did that even happen?
Well, it happened by mistake. It happened because when I traveled as an exchange student to South America, fell in love with it and then ended up in Spain. So just wanted to work in anything where I could use the language. That was the biggest thing. So in Australia, I went back and for a while, there were very few ways I could speak Spanish in Australia. So one was being an interpreter for migrants, and the other was in the music and arts and festivals. And so there were a lot of sort of folkloric or arts festivals, music festivals that artists would come from Spain or Latin America. So then when I went back to Spain, finally, I started working in that world of sort of folkloric music and representing artists from different countries in Latin America. And really because I loved it. And that way I could speak Spanish and eat the food and live the culture. And so I fell into it. And then I started working more, representing more and more musicians. And then, you know the rest. We then ended up in Miami and,
But did you ever feel like you were a fish out of water?
Oh, always. Firstly, it was interesting because I thought that my Spanish last name would be very helpful.
Once you got married.
Once I got married.
Right.
Right. And the interesting thing is, still even today, there's not as many females as males working in the music industry, but there's many more than when, you know, I was there. So the females that were there in my time were sort of more either attorneys or, yeah, the lawyers, maybe finance a little bit, but promoters, the ones who actually booked the shows, almost no women. So, and I was totally a fish out of water because, you know, they'd see my name, or maybe it was Senora Ramos, but as soon as they heard my accent, you know,
yeah.
But it didn't matter. It's, you know, because I loved it.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced being a woman that maybe you weren't prepared for?
Well, I think there's two things: being a woman and being a mother. Two different things. So being a woman are the same challenges as today, except that we didn't have Me Too. And being in the music industry and a lot of things happen at night, it was horrible. So, you know, there were situations that we didn't really have. If something, you know, happened with a man or your boss or someone, you know, there wasn't really anyone to go and complain to. Then being a mother, for me, the hardest thing was that after the work day, all the guys would go to the bar and have a drink, and I'd want to get home to my kids. And
so you don't make those relationships?
You don't make the relationships. I missed out on a lot of the gossip and, you know, speaking to the bosses in the social time, and you miss out a lot. And I think, you know, I've always thought that I think it's really hard to be really good at both. I think you can be a great mother and very good at your job. I think you can be an incredibly good at your job and a good mother. I think it's hard to be incredibly good at both. I really do.
Yeah.
I think there are some women that manage it. Of course, finances help, you know, if you've got a lot of help, but then if you've got other people helping, you're not, you know, with the kids all the time. So it's definitely a much more difficult situation than men.
Yeah, that's actually was one of the things I wanted to talk about, because again, something I never really realized, and I know that this is so stupid, but I got a dog and it's so much work, and I work full time, but I work from home, you know, and I still find it so hard to keep my house in order, look after the puppy. I'm taking him out all the time. He has to go to the vet. He needs this. He needs to eat. Like there's always something that he needs. And then I'm on calls and I'm doing a million things at a time. And I stop and for a moment every once in a while, and I'm like, how do mothers do this? I mean, I cannot imagine having kids and then having to go to work. There are moms who like have to drop off their kids at daycare if they can even afford it.
If they can afford it.
And then they have to, like before COVID, had to drive and go to work. And I mean, and then I think of all of those days that you were getting up every single day and you were there for breakfast, you dropped us off at school, or dad dropped us off at school, and you were at work, you came home late at night. I don't have any recollections of you not being there. Like you were always there. So you managed. Yeah. So no, what I mean is like there emotionally, like, yeah, you weren't there during the day, like the 3 and 8 p.m. when we came home from school. But how did you manage to, but you know, you still were up to date on every PTA meeting and like what we were doing, like what we had for home, like our homework was. And if we were sick, like you know, you were like, how do you manage to balance it all? Because I just think it must be the hardest thing in the world.
Well, it is. It's very hard, but I think women can multitask very well in general. So that's one thing. But also I was very lucky. I had a partner that was incredibly supportive and good. And without him, I couldn't have done it. You know, we made a pact. Your dad and I, you know, there were two things we agreed on when we got married. One, that when we had kids, one of us would always be with the children, not a nanny. You know, a babysitter maybe, but not a nanny. It would full-time, one of us would always be with the kids. I just assumed that would be me, but you know, somehow it just changed and didn't happen. And the other, that we'd have a bilingual household. Those were sort of the two things that were musts. You know,
well, you did it
with the children. We did it, absolutely. Yeah. But it takes two. You know, I couldn't have done it in the same way. Like Mum, as much as we all adore my father and love him, you couldn't have gone to work all day and left. You had 4 children, but you couldn't have left them with Dad.
He
can't
was,
hear him.
was always working anyway. He couldn't.
But if he wasn't working, if the roles were reversed, there was no way. He couldn't have coped with one child, let alone 4.
Exactly. All men are different. Yes.
And also,
Yeah,
though, I think the times are different, though, that, you know, as we, you know, today it's much more common to have men at home. In my day, it was sort of, but in your day, it wasn't.
I also think, Passion for Brats, she just left a really interesting comment. She said, you know, today it's really hard because you need a 2-income household, which is so true. I mean, these days it's really hard to survive off of one income.
For the majority of people, it's impossible.
And I don't know how people do it. I mean, I have so much admiration for parents, period. And working parents and who are trying to do it all. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I honestly don't know how you do it, how you find the time. And now I understand you never went to get your hair done or get your nails done, or was like, I'm spending like a Sunday for myself.
Or I never spent all my, even though we didn't have it, but I would never have spent my time on the phone and on social media.
Right.
You know, because any time you had available was for your kids.
Yeah, but then you have no time for you.
Right.
So I feel like that's also important, though. I feel like you didn't take enough time for you. And so what would you say? Would you do anything differently? Would you find a way to take some time to look after yourself?
Well, maybe, but my biggest satisfaction was my children. And my mother was the same, and her mother was the same. And, you know, now looking back for you, I absolutely want you to have time for yourself. But if being with your kids gives you satisfaction more than getting your hair done, then like that's what you'd rather do. But I still think that the point is, and I thought about that too, that, you know, in today's world, definitely most families need, you know, 2 parents or salaries of 2 parents because, you know, things are so expensive. And so we also, I think many people, especially in the US, but in the Western world, live above their means. So we probably don't need everything that we have, and we spend a lot more.
Yeah, but just housing. I mean, you need a bed, like if you have 3 kids, you need like
3 beds.
3, you know. So housing is expensive.
So then it's really hard, and, you know, there's more facilities available today. You know, daycare and all of those things are more accessible. But it's hard, and you can't spend all the time that you want with your kids.
Granny, what do you think women today have to go through that women that you didn't have to in your day?
I think in some ways, I'm going to say a thing that I think is really good that we didn't have, which was the shared responsibility. I think we covered it earlier, but in my day, it wasn't frowned upon, but men just did not be at home looking after the kids. Now, in a relationship, I think it's almost expected. You know, there's no question share responsibility.
Yeah. I was thinking, I actually brought this up in my conversation with Haley the other day, how, you know, those little things that you don't think about, but when you go out in public and in the public restroom, only the changing stations are only in the women's restroom. Mm-hmm. You know, so what does a dad do when he's going out and, you know, you need to change your diaper? You know, like it's actually society is not structured to support men in those roles either.
But also not just change a diaper. You know, when you 2 were little and Dad was with you in the mall, and, you know, you wanted to go to the bathroom, well, he's not going to take you into the men's bathroom, and he's not going to go into the, what does he do?
Well, what did he do?
I don't know. Probably let you go on your own. I really don't know. I tried not to have you go into the bathroom in the mall.
Yeah.
But because, you know, it was hard, you know, and being a mother or being a parent is a full-time job. So when you've got a job and you're doing it's hard. It's very hard.
Yeah, it is. Is there anything that you would have done differently?
Not had you. I'm joking. I'm joking. Oh, maybe, but I'm very happy with what we did. Listen, I would have loved to, you know, I've had a successful career and a career that I love. I would have loved to have grown further in that, but then I would have had even less time with you two than what I did. So I don't know. In my situation, I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. I really don't, you know, because, yeah, you know, married a wealthy man that could have supported me and maybe I'd be bored stiff.
Or not in love.
Or not in love, exactly.
Granny, is there anything you wish you could have done?
Yes, I would like to have loved to have had a career. My family had quite a large business, with the leather business, which sounds pretty uninspiring, but if I'd been able to do commerce, and it was never discussed, never thought of.
Commerce is business, study business.
Yeah. I would love to have had some role in that company, as I know the two of my daughters would. You know, they've said, why didn't it keep going? Why couldn't you have been in it? It was never discussed. All the women did in that company was be a secretary. They were the only roles. It was all men.
Did you ever ask, though?
I don't think so. But it was something you didn't, was never contemplated.
Did your friends whose families had family businesses, did any of them work in their family business?
No. There were different things that girls did. I mean, I'm sure there are some who did.
Of course.
And I've asked a few people, knowing we might discuss this today, and it was the same for them. Was never thought of. What do you think?
Ricardo says that you have really nice nails. Let's see your nails.
Well,
nice. Mine are awful.
Yeah, don't want to look at mine.
Granny's killing it. I love it. Yeah, I mean, that does make me sad to think, but then also it's amazing to see how much things have changed. Because I mean, just next week, I'm going to be talking to 3 women my age who started their own companies. I obviously, we still have a long way to go, and I know that that's part of the conversation that's happening today. Like but we're a lot more vocal about the things that are still wrong, or the things that still aren't where they need to be. But then at the same time, I don't feel like I've ever been held back. You know, my aspirations have never been any less than my brother's ever. No. And so I can't imagine for you, just everyone just assuming that your brother was going to take over the company. Absolutely. And never even considering that you might want to play a role in it.
No, never. One other thing I just thought of.
Yeah.
Nowadays, when it's so easy and open and people are so proud of being pregnant, we had to hide our baby bump.
What?
So after a certain few months of working, women would have to leave their job. Once the baby bump became obvious, you didn't keep working.
Wow, and so how, I mean, I guess, yeah, you just wear baggy clothes or something.
Oh,
they were smock dresses or
beautiful dresses that came from the shoulders. So they were very pretty, but there is no way I would have gone around in a t-shirt and
right.
You gym clothes.
Gym clothes, yes.
Wow, that's crazy.
It is.
But that's another thing too, is that the kind of I guess common thing that you hear is, oh, the reason why women aren't hired is because they get pregnant and then they leave. But what you're saying is the opposite. It's not like they wanted to leave. It's like as soon as they got pregnant, they were made to leave. Right. They weren't allowed to keep working. That's crazy.
Working.
Yeah.
Right. And Mum, do you remember, because I was reading the other day, or maybe I heard it from Natalia, but yeah, maybe I did on one of your things, that women only started getting credit cards in their names in the 70s. Do you remember not having a credit card? Because I was born in 64. Do you remember having to go to Dad and saying, will you sign for this, or?
No. No.
So maybe you could have a credit card if your husband was.
I had, before we were married, I can't, but there were a lot of other things with the bank that I couldn't do without a joint signature. But no, I didn't have that problem, but I know it existed.
Yeah, maybe not in Australia.
Maybe.
We should look into that. So you had a card in your name that you could use before you were married. But yeah, they didn't really use cards.
There wouldn't have been cards. We lost you, Mum. We can't hear you.
Oh.
Oh, no.
I haven't changed anything.
No, you went too far away, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. And another huge change that I noticed, we only got television in 1956. I'm not sure when you got it in the States, but that's just made such a dramatic difference to people's lives to know what's going on in other parts of the world.
For sure.
When to the States?
Sorry?
When did it come to the States? Television. TV.
I mean, it would have been probably first, I don't know, the 50s?
Probably.
Yeah, I'm also thinking of all of the different technological changes that you've lived through, because you traveled to the UK. You left Australia for the first time on a boat. On a ship, yeah. And then you've seen, you know, cars and airplanes and just television, the internet, the cell phone. I mean, it's kind of crazy.
It is.
And you've learned and you've mastered them all.
Oh, I love it all. Otherwise, we couldn't be speaking now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So I'm going to wrap it up. I want to ask one last question for just because I'm curious about the generational differences. And so I'm going to ask you both one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. We'll let everyone get on with their day. So I want to know, what is something that I've convinced you to change your mind about? Has there been anything, you know, that you've, you know, that I've kind of forced you, or even television and the media has kind of changed your perspective?
Yes, there are always two sides to every story, and to see what is happening from another point of view. And that is so important in today's society. And yeah, very big thing.
Is there anything that you've changed your mind about? You've always been really modern and kind of.
Yeah, but she's saying I think also what you're saying, Mum, is, you know, that probably more you would have believed, you know, if you read something in the newspaper, you believe it.
Absolutely.
Because in your day also it was, maybe it was more.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Reliable.
So whereas now you're more open, like more.
Now
you've taught her to read different things and.
Yes.
I get it. I see.
Question things, and don't believe everything you read and see. It's there, you know.
Interesting. Oh, that's really cool. That is really cool. Mom, do you have anything?
Honestly, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things, but I really can't think of them right now.
Okay, well, you can think about it and we'll let everyone know. Yeah. I challenge everyone watching for this week to go and ask their moms or their grandmas or their dads or their grandpas something that they've changed their mind about recently, maybe because of you. I'm curious. Leave in the comments.
Something we haven't changed our minds about?
Yeah. What about something that I will never convince you?
Oh, I know. My mum's got one.
What's mine?
What's something I will never convince you to change your mind about?
Your love of Eminem.
Oh, that was so long ago.
Eminem is never going to be.
I was obsessed with him. I thought he was so hot. I was obsessed.
I could not understand it. We
had you can't.
No, had you.
Well, I stand firmly by it. I was a huge Eminem fan. I'm
and
sure
see, that's interesting because I changed, because I couldn't understand it when you were, and then later on,
as a mother,
years later.
What you
No, and I respect his music now, which I didn't.
Oh yeah, interesting. Oh well, see, I did change your mind about that then.
Yeah, I don't know if you did or he did or I don't know, but yeah.
Okay, I actually I do have one more that I really do want to ask. What do you find to be the biggest problem that humanity is facing right now?
Oh, so many.
Yeah, but every generation has a different priority. Like if you were president of the world, what's the first issue that you would address? Priority number one.
What's wrong with society that there is so much fighting and lack of understanding and lack of compassion and bigotry, I guess, too. But and also global warming.
Well, so I guess
That's
we're not
interesting.
all that different at all.
No,
Those are mine too.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because that's
Granny for president.
Well, and I admire Mum with that because at your age, you know, so many people don't believe that there's really a problem with global warming, and I think you didn't until just, you know, some years ago. But
probably you both explained it to me.
Yeah, maybe Natalia.
Do a lot of your friends do a lot of your friends consider global warming to be, you know, an existential issue?
My close friends do. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing.
But
and going back to the other point you said, you know, about, you know, there's just a lack of civility and a lack of so many things. There's one, I think, for me, I find it very hard to point out, you know, real role models in today's world. Whereas in the past, I think there's always been someone there that could be a role model. I think with the impact of social media, especially, and the internet, you know, if our role models are going to be artists and celebrities, then, you know, God help us. But it's a big problem because it's sort of every man for himself, and we're losing this feeling of community and that we have to do things for each other. And that's a sad world when it comes to that, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I definitely don't feel like I'm alone because of the two of you. And I think it's very clear now that everyone watching, everyone who's going to watch this later on, you know, where my ideas and what shaped me, you've had a little window into how I am the way that I am and why, and these ideas. So I want to thank the two of you for spending time with me.
Thank you.
And being here to do this with me. And Granny, I wish I could give you a hug.
So do I.
I miss you so much.
But the reality is we're not that different.
No, we're exactly the same. We're all the same. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Granny, thank you so much.
So nice to meet all your friends, darling.
I know, everyone. Granny, you got several votes for president.
Should be the first Australian president.
Exactly, of the world. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Granny. I'm going to close out now, okay?
Love you, darling.
Love you.
Love you. Bye, Mum.
Bye. Bye, Kate.